So I always knew I wanted to be an engineer at a young age. I don't know why, but I did that at a time in the late 70s. Women weren't well represented in engineering. And I didn't think anything of it. No one deterred me from pursuing that. And I only had one experience in my education that made me realize I'm different. And that was in drafting 101. And when I walked in the room, there was nothing but boys, and I was catcalled at. I can tell you, it's never happened to me in my life. And because I was a tomboy growing up, I played with boys in the neighborhood, and I was just one of the guys, you know. And that almost broke me right there. I was devastated of feeling treated that way. So I wasn't respected. I wasn't thought of at all. But I got beyond that, and that actually was at a community college. I came to A&M, never had another bad experience. Well, I had one more bad experience. So at the community college, physics was really not the right physics for me to take. For me to, my first year at A&M, to take statics and dynamics, mechanical engineering, statics and dynamics. So I was, needless to say, failing that course, and I had absolutely no idea what to do about it. So I went to my professor, who told me I had no business being in college if I couldn't figure that out. I think he just gave me a D. I don't know. I don't think I figured it out. So that was another turning point of, is this right for me? But after the horrible experience with statics and dynamics, physics was a breeze. So I was successful. I graduated. Just like pi never ends, I was that close to a 3.0 average when I graduated. I almost made a 3.0. So that's after overcoming a D in statics and dynamics right off the bat. But professionally, when I went into the workplace, there was no difference. Again, I'm back with a bunch of engineers. There's women, there's men. By and large, manufacturing was the field I went into, and that's fairly male-dominated. But in the assembly factory, there was lots of women. So there was not any, gone was any kind of demarcation, whether it was professional or line staff. Everybody was, we were all like family. And manufacturing became a love of mine. So when I got the opportunity to take another position with another company, I started out as the technical support manager. And I was pretty good at managing people. And I did that for a few years, and then the CEO asked me if I would take the manufacturing manager position. And that was like a dream come true. A dream come true. I mean, you get to see from stem to stern, and all the parts and pieces that make an entire factory work. So I thought I'd made it then. And I'm like 12 years into my career, all right? And I've made it. I'm so good. And on a Monday afternoon, I was called into human resources, and the same CEO that had asked me a couple of years earlier to take that position fired me and added a cherry on top that I was not good at management, I was not a leader, I was not technically competent. I mean, just there's every aspect of a professional being I was not. So that was very devastating. And pause for a cause, right? Just pause. By no choice of mine, I had to pause and reflect a lot about who I was professionally. I mean, I even questioned as a person. So a lot of things, filing for unemployment, applying for jobs, interviewing, and I gratefully had a neighbor who had horse stables, and she hired me to muck horse stalls every morning, and it got me out of bed, gave me a purpose, and that probably saved my life in many ways, just because of the beauty of horses and being around that every day. And I was accomplishing something every day, and when you're a professional, even in your work life, every day you don't get to say you accomplished anything, so that can be frustrating. Networking with prior mentors and bosses eventually got me a referral to a position at the Texas Engineering Extension Service, where they were starting a program to assist small and medium-sized manufacturers across the state of Texas. And that's what I had been doing my entire career. And I was hired as one of the first engineers that they hired in that program. Got lots of experience in what it meant to do a government program, a government-funded program. We had to build processes from the beginning of how this whole thing was going to work. So it's just ground floor operations for this new program. About 2 or 3 years into that, I became the regional director for the TEACS portion, the Extension Services division of that program, hiring staff and engineers. And the beauty of that program, from the very beginning that it was designed, was there had to be measurable results of the work that we did, return on the government's investment. And so that makes it a challenge, but it also is, for a government-funded program, a lot of people think there's a lot of waste. This was proving to pay taxpayer money back in the productivity gains in these companies. And I'm proud to say that program still lives on today. I left after about 8 years, I think, to other bigger and better things, and it's still going. There's a lot of gratification in knowing you were part of building something that continues beyond your time there. And I've done that several times in my career. And that's a really good feeling when you can leave a job or a position better off than it was when you got there. So since being fired, I said I was a regional division director there. I was many positions at TEACS, administrative director for the Urban Search and Rescue unit for a while. I was the administrative director for a division, and I helped start their product development center. Right before I left TEACS, that's what we were doing, was building a product development center to help companies use the proving grounds with the facilities that TEACS has to test their products and bring them into market. And then I got referred over to TEAS, the experiment station, to be the executive director of the Texas Center for Applied Technology, an applied research center as part of the engineering program at A&M. That was a challenge. What did I know about research? But the situation called for somebody who could facilitate change in a positive way, and help heal an organization that had gone through some very tenuous times. Very proud of that time. One of the most gratifying things that I've done, seeing an organization turn around from a standpoint of they were emotionally distraught, if you will, and thrive. And when I left there about 4.5 years later to move up into an assistant agency director position for the agency, it was left better than I found it. And So I've been super lucky, but also gratified by the rewards you get when you persevere through being fired or other organizational difficulties. So I guess my last position, two more positions. Regional Assistant Agency Director for Regional Divisions was the first position, I think, at Tees. And that was working with university partners all across the state, both A&M system units and other universities. Met so many awesome people dedicated to educating the next generation of professionals, engineers in particular. So I got experiences that I don't believe hardly anybody gets who wasn't PhD trained, wasn't pursuing a higher ed leadership position. But there I created an annual research conference, making a competition and encouraging, incentivizing researchers from across the state to partner on research projects. And the value of that is that other universities in the state, many of them much smaller than A&M, didn't have the breadth and depth to form a research team with all the talents that you would need. And this afforded them an opportunity to access talent from other places. That program is in its 5th or 6th year now, I think. So very, very happy with that. The last assignment I had, I spent some time in the Nuclear Power Institute on a part-time basis, and that's where I got to see some amazing programs built by a fine professional named Dr. Valerie Segovia. I didn't build that program, she built that program, but I can tell you there's, again, going full circle back to measuring results. We can measure so many amazing impacts in young people pursuing STEM because of the work that MPI is doing. So I retired on a high note with that, but was asked back for a little while to help with a restructuring that happened with MPI. And I think it was a painful process. Valerie stuck with us, and this is really going great places now under her leadership. And I'm proud to retire finally, knowing that I helped support the success of such an incredible program and incredible people. I am a persister.